Alright guys, so this is a 35 gram little nano Cinewhoop that I created from some other parts that I'll explain here in a second. I posted this up on my Instagram like a week ago, and apparently a lot of you guys were interested in this. But this is something you guys have seen before. This is the Meteor 65 HD, and all I've done is I've inverted it, and I've done the sideways battery mod here. In fact, I've gone through all the details on how to do this mod in the other video. This is the non-HD version of the Meteor 65. So I'm going to link this video in the description. I do talk about the mod and how to make the changes in general, or actually in more detail in that video. I'm just going to talk about them in more general terms in this one, because really the only difference is now we have an HD camera board. So the Meteor 65 features this, I think this is some sort of a Caddx turtle board, and the camera is also a turtle based as well, I believe. 1080p 60 frames per second video. And this is a board. I actually didn't even change anything here, so obviously the whip comes like this, and there was a canopy that covers the board. So the board is in the same spot. It's actually attached to the flight controller via pins, and this flight controller has the video transmitter and receiver all in the same board to keep the weight down. And all I did is I got rid of the canopy. I flipped the quad over to make it inverted, and then I rotated the board 90 degrees to get the battery sideways like this. And then I did have to take the board off of the frame to fish the camera through, because the camera, obviously the camera wire goes on the top normally, so you have to fish it through here. I did also move the receiver antenna. This is the VTX antenna here, and the receiver antenna. So the receiver antenna is soldered to the flight controller board, and I just moved it from the top side of the board to the bottom side of the board, which is now the top side, because when it was on the other side here, it was kind of squished in between the camera board and the flight controller board, so the reception wasn't so great. It's much better here in this position, so it's optional. You don't have to do that if you're just flying this indoors. You know, it's not, you're gonna have plenty of range for indoor flights. So yeah, once you put the camera on here, I did just stick it down the frame with a rubber band, using this part of the frame to hold it in place, and you can adjust the angle. I have an ND filter on here for outdoor flights, because in very sunny, bright conditions you are going to get some jello because it is attached directly to the frame. Now someone can probably create a mount or something here, maybe a TPU, and screw it to that little part right there of the frame, and I isolate the vibrations that go to the camera sensor, but the ND filter seems to work fine. I just I don't know where I got this from. I think, yeah, it's an ND64, but I'm not sure if it's really an ND64. I'm not exactly sure where I got this from. I'm pretty sure I bought it from Amazon at some point in the past, so I know you guys are going to ask me where I can get that ND filter. I did make a little custom adapter so it'll fit over the lens, which is actually smaller than this. Also, you know, that part's going to be useless to you because I don't know where you can get this, but you can probably pretty much use any ND filter you want, as long as it's bigger than this lens, which most are going to be a lot bigger than the lens itself. It's like a tiny M7 lens or something like that, and then you just make a little adapter to hold the filter on, and that will basically lower the shutter speed to the point where the jello is not as apparent. Of course, you can look at the flight footage and make that judgment for yourself. It was a pretty sunny day when I flew this around. I did also make a bunch of modifications to the ESCs. I flashed Bluejay firmware, the latest firmware, like 14.2, 96 kilohertz, which is going to increase your flight time. I got almost 3 minutes, whereas before on 24 kilohertz I was getting under 2 minutes on this when it was not flipped over. So the reason I did this is because obviously you can just buy a Meteor 65 HD and just fly it around and get footage, but the camera angle is kind of high, so you can't really fly it that slow. And the front of the prop guards are in your video, so that, not that great. So if you want to not have your prop guards in the video, and all this setup here is also a little bit lighter. This is not a bad way to go. And then you get put the camera here, you get the prop guards out of view, and you can lower the angle so you can fly slow. I did add this piece of foam here and use the existing screws to hold the foam in place. Again, this is optional, but you probably don't want to land on the circuit board with all the little components. You want to protect that. So these little foam pieces, they usually come with like other FPV parts, or you can use pretty much any kind of foam you want. I just cut it to that size and just use just basically poke some holes in the foam to screw it on it, and it just lands on that. It's been fine, no problem in terms of damaging the board or anything like that. I've actually had this built for months now. I just haven't gone around to making a video, and I figured, well, let's see who's interested in this or not. I wasn't really sure, because not too many of you guys were interested in this one. I don't know, I'm not exactly sure what happened. You got some interest at the beginning and then quickly faded. I actually love flying this guy around. This is my best Cinewhoop flyer out of all the ones I've ever flown. This one I fly all the time indoors, and it flies great. I think it's because it's the pusher configuration. They just fly better, in my opinion. Well, you guys can disagree if you want in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Yeah, 35 grams. Not sure if you can get this kind of footage in anything that's lighter. And that's 35 grams with the battery. Almost 3 minutes of flight time. Pretty sure there's nothing else that can hit gaps that this thing can hit. So yeah, if you got something that can hit a gap that's smaller than this, let me know in the comments below what is out there that is smaller than this, gets you 1080 60 footage, flies for almost 3 minutes, and all that. Now I will put the CLI dump to this down in the description, but I do have to warn you that I've done that before for this guy, and people easily mess it up because they don't have all the same things set up the same way. And this is not going to be easy if you're a first timer or a beginner. So if you're one of those, I don't recommend you try this. And I'm not really sure if we're going to have a lot of time answering questions about this. I'm probably going to refer you to this video if you need help, because you have to do you have to reorient the flight controller, so it's going to be basically flipped upside down 180 degrees and then rotated 90 degrees. So you got to keep all that stuff correct, otherwise it won't take off. It'll just flip over and disarm when you try and take off. You have to have the props in the proper order. You have to remap the motors, make sure the motors are spinning in the correct direction, so that you have to change all that in ESC configurator when you do your when you do your BlueJ firmware flashing. So all of that stuff you got to take into account. So if you don't know, if you're listening to me and your eyes are glazing over and you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't bother doing this one, because you, based on the experience that I had with helping people out with this one, you're probably going to fail at this modification probably about 80% of the time. This is not easy by any means. If someone out there thinks it's easy, let me know what you guys think. But yeah, for those of you guys that have the skills and know what I'm talking about, this is going to be a pretty good mod if you can still get this model. I think only place I see it still selling is the actual Beta FPV website. It's like $150. And yeah, but if you have this sitting around in a closet somewhere, you haven't been using it, yeah, I recommend giving it a try if you know what you're doing. So that's going to do it for this one. Yeah, that's all there was, 35 gram Cinewhoop. Yeah, pretty cool. I like it. And I actually, this one I'm going to be keeping. This is going to be a classic. I'll keep this one probably forever. Anyway, here's some footage. I'll probably link the full flight in the description. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video.